they think there's some kind of like secret knowledge that they don't know. And that's their obstacle. But the secret is there is no secret. Everything can be found. Everything can be learned. There is no real obstacle.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners, super excited to welcome Greg Elfrink to our show today. Greg, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Eitan, it's good, man. Pleasure to be here as always. Thanks for having me.
Sure. I'd love to discuss, your business and Empire Flippers. But before we get started, let us know a little bit about yourself and about your marketing background, a little bit more about Empire Flippers, just for our listeners to get to know you better.
Sure. So like many internet marketers, my background was an oil field roughneck in Alaska who hated his job. So I
A minimum requirement just states
yes. We all come from, every internet marketer comes from Alaska on an oil rig. So I taught myself internet marketing. Fell in love with direct response and SEO and content marketing. Eventually, this is very cliff notes, but eventually got my first and only marketing job, which was Empire Flippers. I had no college background. I'm all self-taught. And I started as the blogger at Empire Flippers. And that eventually, I was employee number 4 way back in the day. I'm the oldest employee at Empire Flippers now. So I always joke I'm Grandpa Empire. I helped grow the company from probably a valuation of low 6 figures, I'd say, to close to 9 figures. We almost hit 9 figures. We're very high. We got to very high figures. So the growth has been amazing. I'm now the head of marketing at Empire Flippers. And for your audience, what we do, we're the largest curated marketplace in the world when it comes to buying and selling profitable digital businesses.
super interesting. Greg, what are the 3 words that are most important to you?
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than 3 words, but it's my favorite quote. And it is, you want some mystery, but the mystery is that there is no mystery. And I butcher that quote, by the way, but it's that's the intent of the quote. It's a Cormac McCarthy quote from the book Blood Meridian, which is my favorite book. And the reason why I think it's important is because I think a lot of people stop trying to achieve something in life because they think there's some kind of secret knowledge that they don't know. And that's their obstacle, right? But the secret is there is no secret. Everything can be found. Everything can be learned. There is no real obstacle like you think there is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just figuring out what is missing, right? You don't know what you don't know. I was trying to ask the right questions. Obviously, you need some help.
Yeah.
Time.
That's exactly right. A lot of people, one of the reasons I think they think there is that secret is because they just don't know the right questions to even ask to realize no. If you just know the right questions, people will tell you what you thought was a secret for free.
Yeah. So you also have a background in writing, right? And even fiction.
I do.
Right?
Yeah. So, sorry, go finish your question. I keep interrupting.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm super interested to understand, how it helps you with marketing, because we know marketing is all about storytelling, right? So this background influence your job.
Yeah. So I'm a huge literature nerd, fantasy, sci-fi, and highbrow literature. I love all 3 of those genres. So I read a lot. I write a lot. I write novels and poetry for fun. But, I talk to my other marketing friends. They ask how do I get better at copywriting? And everyone always talks about ADA, pain versus pleasure. These are very important lessons, but I personally believe if you want to become a better marketer, better copywriter, you should read a lot of fiction and you should read about the art of how do you create fiction. Because if you look at a fiction book that's really good, that really gets you, right? That author is a master copywriter. Not only is he getting your attention for potentially dozens of hours, depending on the length of the book, but he's doing it with something that is completely made up. This is an illusion, right? With made up people that you feel something for, right? So I think a lot of people in business, they kind of devalue fiction because they feel like it's a waste of their productivity. But it's if you look at the richest people in the world, they're huge sci-fi So what does that tell you?
Yeah. They are an artist, right? Artists, right? They have this capability just to drown us or just to this storytelling cycle or this fantasy kind of future, right? Which is something they always one hand know how to describe, but also feel very confident about.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think reading a lot of fiction gives you empathy, and to your point, like marketing storytelling, right? And if you don't have the ability to have empathy, then you can never really put yourself in someone else's mind. Whenever I hire a new person, I teach them this concept called the words of their world. So at Empire Flippers, we sell SaaS businesses, e-commerce stores, affiliate sites, YouTube channels, KDP businesses. This is a lot of different business models. That's not even all right. And in each one of them, these entrepreneurs have their own set of the words of their world. So we have to use their words and empathize with them. So we're meeting them with where they're at. And I think a lot of copywriters discount that for like, quick direct response hacks, which, hey, I love direct response, but you could have a kind of a shitty copywriting, but and even maybe not even that great of an offer. But if you're pretty good at the empathy side, it'll carry you a long way.
Yeah, interesting. So just understand the word bank of the specific category, right? How do you make this market research? Obviously, it's a step you cannot ignore, right?
There's a bunch of ways to do it. I mean, AI makes it so much easier now. But the way I used to do it was Reddit, Google, Quora. I would even throw Quora into a tool like Ahrefs around like what I thought were the keywords, right? I would look at word cloud stuff. I'm forgetting the name of the site, but I think it was like, I want to say Ask Jeeves, which is completely wrong. It's Ask something. There's a new one. One of my buddies just bought, Ask Socrates. It basically does the same thing though, but it just like spits out all the word associations. Nowadays though, like you can make this way easier by just doing like a ChatGPT search, like make it do deep research and have it search all the subreddits and stuff for you, right? And you want to look for like words that keep coming up, right? Like affiliates, they'll talk about commissions all the time, right? Versus SaaS people, they're talking about MRR, ARR, churn, right? Agency owners will talk about churn too, but they also talk a lot more about like retention and retainers too, right? So each one of these people have a unique way of speaking. And now that is a little bit of a shortcut hack. It's not exactly like empathy, but you always want to try to be as one-to-one with your vocabulary that you're using with your audience. This is why the common advice is you should write in like 7th grade, love reading, right? Because most people have that reading.
Yes. So what are the various channels that you use? What type of marketing activities do you do in it?
Yeah, so we do a few different things. Our workhorse is still SEO. So we get the vast majority of our work from SEO. But we recently, like I say, I guess like last year and a half, got pretty hard into cold email. So we do cold email too. We still do content marketing, obviously, and that's usually done with a podcast. Like you came onto my podcast recently, right? And then we also have a YouTube channel that we do. We go to conferences and speak. So Andy, our CEO, and myself will go all around the world and speak on different stages for entrepreneurs about the power of M&A, both buying and selling businesses, right? So we have a mix of things. We're always experimenting, trying new things. But one of the core tenets, or at least what we try to do a lot, is always wrap our marketing around data that we own, which is like our advantage. And for anyone listening to this, like the more you can use your own data that you have, the more powerful your own content becomes. Like a few years ago, I created this thing called I haven't done a new one in a couple of years now, just because this takes a long time to do. But I created this industry report because all the other brokers had an industry report, and they were just scraping listings. Like they had no idea what things were selling for. And most brokers, they operate on a low quantity business model. They just don't have that much. And even other marketplaces that have like a big volume, usually they don't own the data. They don't know what actually happens to those businesses, and they're not usually representing them. Versus at EF, we do represent businesses, right? We represent the seller. So we had an insane amount of seller data and buying data, right? So I published this, I think it was like a 35,000, 40,000 word report versus everyone else was like 10 slides on PowerPoint. Right? So I just went crazy hard on the other end. And it was so funny, man. All these industry reports went away, and a lot of my competitors would link to my report if people asked about it. And what's funny about that is everyone on LinkedIn is always saying like, oh, do ungated content. Well, this was gated. So my competitors were sending me leads to download the reward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a smart move. Very, very nice. You mentioned SEO previously. You see any change or reduction in traffic in the launch of AI overview?
Oh, so much change, dude. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
I like we've been doing okay. Like we got hit a little bit with SEO, but I have a lot of friends that got like sledgehammer hit. So depending on your business model, I think SEO is a very risky endeavor now. I think it is going to increasingly become risky. I think the safest area of SEO is probably if you're like a local business. E-commerce is still actually really good with SEO. That may or may not change. I think e-commerce SEO will change before local, but yeah, we definitely saw a hit. Luckily, I had changed. So our strategy was initially very based on like the HubSpot strategy, like a poor man's HubSpot strategy. So I was doing that bootstrapping for years, but I then changed it to much more marketplace SEO. So if you go onto our marketplace, those pages are doing the heavy lifting now for us. So when AI came and crushed blogs, we were mostly okay.
Yeah. So I heard like a podcast yesterday just discussed, what's happening with SEO, and depending on the industry and the niche, somewhere between 15% to 30% reduction in traffic, right? Obviously, Google claims it's much less. It also depends that you're not getting AI overviews in all the queries, right? I mean, it's more, if it's like a W question, then obviously AI overview will kick in. But if you are targeting a brand or something specific, then you just get directly the results. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. No one really knows, but as you said, it's not a growth. Like we used to have companies just growing on organic, right? But this obviously can't happen today, as it can't happen in any other individual channels, I believe, right? So we need to have a holistic approach with marketing today. And yeah, this is what it is. It's more complicated. It's more, the devil is in the details. You need to make sure that you have expertise in so many things. Right? So how it works? I mean, you said you're presenting the sellers, right? What is the process? I mean, how the seller onboarding is working? How do you promote the brand? How transaction is being taking place?
So let's say an e-commerce entrepreneur comes to us, right? The first step is they submit their business for vetting, and that's totally free. It costs them nothing, and they're underneath like no obligation to sell. Basically, what vetting is our team looks through it and makes sure that what the seller is saying is true to the best of our ability. We reject, I think the number is 94% of the businesses that get listed on our market or get submitted to our vetting. So on our marketplace, you actually see less than 6% because, sometimes sellers disagree with us on our valuation, which we could talk about. Seller expectations are sometimes very unrealistic, but those that get listed, they've gone through our vetting process. We give them a valuation. We usually give them a range. So we tell them, like, hey, look, based on our data, at this point, we sold over 2,400 businesses, we made 90 people millionaires at the moment of exit. And in my personal belief, it's over 100, but we don't count like businesses that we sold at 900K. But we give them a range based on all these data points. Like, okay, here's like what we think is the best valuation where you can get the most amount of money and the shortest amount of time on market. If you want to go above that, just realize it's going to take you a lot longer. But we wouldn't go above this number if you wanted to. So we give them like a range and we work with the seller from there. And once they're live, we start marketing it. So that's when it comes back to my team for another like pitch. We go to our buyer network, which has a bit over, I think it's over $14 billion in verified liquidity at this point. And those buyers will unlock a business. So unlock is a very unique EF term in the M&A world. But basically what that means is sign an NDA. The thing about us is our NDAs are quite different from other brokers because, like, if you look at most brokers, you can sign an NDA and you get access to everything, right? You don't have to like do anything else. For us, we actually don't allow the buyers to sign an NDA unless they prove to us they have the financial ability to buy the business they want to lose. This first, yeah, yes. Buyers hate it. Sellers love it for obvious reasons because it doesn't get their information out there and it doesn't waste their time, right? But that makes each one of our NDAs kind of like a super NDA in that sense because they've already went through a few hoops. But yeah, then we help them negotiate the deal just like a typical M&A advisor. We've done all sorts of different deal structures, obviously all cash, earnouts, seller finance. We've done vendor financing, RBF, like all sorts of stuff. I'd say we're probably more flexible on the creative financing aspect than like the vast majority of brokers out there.
Yeah, interesting. And what are the businesses that you're looking for? What are their like minimal, fundamentals?
Yeah, so we have a massive range. See, our minimum threshold is very small. Only $2,000 per month in profit on average over the last 12 months. Typically, you need to be at least 3 years old. Like we like to see that in general. Younger businesses than that tend to be pretty hard to sell. But with that said, I mean, it was either towards the end of last year or the beginning of this year. I'm forgetting. I mean, we sold a $13.5 million commerce store, right? But we sold just last month. We actually sold a $6.5 million marketing agency, that was a great deal. It was basically a full list price. We sold that one in like 30 days. But yeah, so we range, like you'll see on Empire Flippers Marketplace, like small businesses like less than 200K all the way up to multiple millions of dollars.
And there are like minimal requirements for like profitability or growth or some pipeline guarantee.
Yeah. So in terms of profitability, it's $2,000 per month, right? That's all we ask for. In terms of growth,
right now we're also confirmed for the future as well. Or
confirmed in the future. What do you mean?
I mean, it's like a recurring business, or 2000 obviously is the probably.
Oh no,
but looking for the future, is it also something that obviously
most of the businesses we sell aren't recurring. They don't have recurring revenue. They have traffic coming in on a recurring basis, right?
I didn't mean in a subscription kind of way, but in a let's say in profitability that it can be.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We need to see a track record, right? So like there's a line in M&A, like if you look at the, historicals, while they don't predict the future, they do inform the future, right? You see something trending down, good chance that's what is going to keep doing, right? So, but to answer your other part of the question, so we sometimes get flack for this because we will list businesses that are declining, sometimes steeply, right? Both in traffic and revenue. And some of our buyers are like, why would you do that when I know your vetting is so good? Why would you list a business like that? And it's because some buyers, that's what they buy. So there's this common misconception that vetting equals due diligence, which is completely wrong. So vetting is just us making sure this is a legitimate opportunity, right? Due diligence is your own personal criteria. And like, I have friends that they only buy websites that have like toxic backlinks because they know how to fix that, right? Or e-commerce stores with a lot of dead inventory because they know how to liquidate that like really, really well.
We see an episode,
Yeah. So there's no particular year-over-year growth thing we have. I will say though, if your audience wants to sell their business for the most amount of money in the fastest amount of time, you should sell your business after you get those 3 years of data and as you are growing. Don't sell when you hit a peak. That's when a lot of sellers think that they should sell because they're at the top, right? That's actually not the best time to sell. It's on the way up because buyers buy growth. So you want to sell your business while it's in that mode of growth. You're going to get a better multiple, more cash up front, and you're going to sell way, way quicker. Because your summit is the valley of stagnation for the buyer, right? Because now they need to figure out, well, how do I pivot? How do I get to the next stage of growth, right? Versus buying you while you're still growing in that stage. So that's my short advice for someone.
It's something like counterintuitive because you feel so confident, right? You're focused on execution because of growth, totally, concentrated on just trying to sell the business, right? To still believe, okay, but that's a great feedback to have. And obviously you work through the valuation exercise. It's dependent on the niche, on the position of the company. There you have like an entire team that just evaluate financials, circuits, and all that.
Yeah. Yep. So our vetting team builds the P&L, reviews traffic analytics, all that kind of good stuff, right? There's a lot of people that ask like what niche is the best to like build in to eventually exit, right? And the answer always disappoints them because there really isn't like one niche that rules all other niches from what I've seen. And I've seen a lot of niches at this point, right? Thousands of businesses sold. There are like a few niches that you could potentially get a higher than normal multiples. So like in spaces like finance, for example, that's highly competitive, right? Those tend to get higher multiples, so just by the nature of the niche. But overall, niche isn't as important as people think in terms of like your actual valuation.
Yes. Any particular trends that you see right now in M&A that is important, mentioning?
Yeah. So I think the big trend, if we look at the businesses we are selling now versus what we sold years ago, I think there is a pretty massive trend of buyers seeking what I call a full business funnel control. So what I mean by that is businesses that have, at least digitally native businesses where you have control of the marketing funnel, of the platform, of the customer data, like full control. And for some of your audience, you might think like, well, what business doesn't have that? Well, a lot of them do. So like affiliate sites, they don't have full control, and they're usually like traffic dependent on just SEO and, like on their affiliate commissions, right? They don't really have like much else going on. And then there's like Amazon FBA, right? Very controlled by Amazon to the point where it's hard to even get your own customer data because Amazon says that's their customers, right? So I'm seeing a lot of buyers go for that because they want a business that they can tweak everything, which makes sense. You're always going to be able to grow more if you control more. But the other thing is they want businesses that can, like, usually when you buy the business, it's still going to be dependent on like one big tech giant, like, your Facebook ads or whatever, right? But they want businesses that are in a model where it's realistic and very possible to do multi-channel marketing these days.
Mm-hmm. It's so important, diversity in marketing, right, for valuation. That's, I think, very, very critical. So what are some of the most common mistakes that you see for sellers, when they try to exit their business?
Yeah, well, I kind of already hinted at it. The biggest mistake is sellers think they're way more valuable than they are,
Yeah.
which is very common. So there is a thing I call emotional equity that sellers have, especially if you never sold a business. Most entrepreneurs have emotional equity, and that is they view their business as crazy more valuable than what a buyer would ever realistically pay for. And the reason why that happens is because usually their business that they poured their heart and soul and sweat and blood into also represents like so much good things in their life. Like, I was able to quit my job, travel the world, like I can stay at home with my wife and kids, or, whatever, right? So you have all these like personal things that your business has done, and you think your business is like very exceptional because of this, but buyers are looking at you with a much colder calculus, right? They're basing everything on the valuation, P&L, traffic numbers, trends, all that kind of stuff, right? They think that's great. Your business did that for you, but they're not going to pay you extra because it did that for you, right? So that's one thing that can be very tough for a seller to kind of come to reality. I joke a lot that I break an entrepreneur's dreams so I can help them wake up and actually become rich. So like we have people like, oh, it's worth $3 million. Like, no, you're not worth $3 million. You're actually worth $2.5 million. I'm still making you a multimillionaire though. That's the
How do you usually manage, because there's so much ego involved, right? How do you usually manage these type of processes?
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes it depends on the entrepreneur, right? So I'll give you a quick story. It just happened last week. So I was helping a friend with his business in terms of getting a valuation ready. A big agency guy, really successful business. And he has this friend that happened to sell 3 businesses, and he's talking about how broker commissions should be way lower and his valuation should be way higher. And I was like, dude, like, this advice that this guy's giving you is delusional. He is delusional. If you come to a broker with this, they're just going to say, we're not going to work with you. He said, but he did it. Like, well, yeah, well, okay. Well, what kind of business did he have? Because that changes everything, right? Like, like Main Street brokers, they'll charge like 10% for like your local businesses when you're starting out. With like us, we charge 15% of your value at less than $1 million, and it goes down from there. Investment bankers are going to give you like a much lower commission, but they deal with higher businesses and they might be charging a $15,000 per month retainer, right? It based on what your business is, like, it's way, way different. So like one of the issues that you run into with a lot of entrepreneurs is they tend to network with other entrepreneurs, and a lot of times they'll meet someone who has, a big exit success, right? And maybe they use an investment banker. Well, an investment banker's idea of how a valuation works is very different than how S&P valuations work, because they're not doing an S&P valuation, right? They're doing like upper mid market, which is a completely different game. A lot of that advice doesn't translate.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we try to evaluate from the buyer's side, how do you separate, a savvy investor from a risky one?
Well, the first step is proof of funds, right?
Yeah.
Like, show us you have the ability to do it, right? If you're not going to like trust us to show that, then we aren't going to trust you to show you all the intimate data of the seller. Like, that's like our agreement, right? If a seller wants to like verify a buyer, though, like let's say they're doing a private deal, hey, the thing I would ask is, has this buyer ever bought a business before? Because there's a lot of looky loos, right? And there's nothing wrong. Everyone starts from somewhere, right? There's nothing wrong with someone looking at your business buyer who's never bought a business. But hey, that's a data point, right? Because what ends up happening sometimes with people who never bought a business is they get to the end goal and maybe it's like 3-4 months, and then they get cold feet, right? Like, oh shit, there's a lot of money. And then they back out and waste a lot of your time, right? Or they are using different types of leverage, so it's not their own capital and they haven't truly secured that capital. That can also be a pretty big red flag depending on what you're doing. Another thing that is a red flag is if depending on how the buyer is interacting with you. So a lot of people, they approach negotiations as this kind of showdown, like a John Wayne Westerner, and this is completely wrong. It should be a collaboration. Like, you as the seller should ethically want the buyer to win your business with a reasonable offer. And the buyer ethically should want you as a seller to get paid a large amount of money for all your hard work, right? And we got to find like, what's the compromise here to make both of these things happen. So if the buyer is super crazy lowballing you, I would just, go away. And if they offer you an earnout, you got to be careful on earnouts. Earnouts are very common, so don't ever just not do it. But earnouts can be used as a trick, especially if you're dealing with a buyer that is much more savvy, who like maybe like private equity, for example, sometimes do this. Well, they'll give you an amazing earnout that you're actually going to make way more money than your valuation based on performance. But your greed is blinding you to the fact that your business cannot support the growth that will actually get that earnout. So you actually get paid significantly less than your valuation. And the private equity people, they also know that's going to happen. They're using it as a way to just pay less, right?
Pay much less. They put such a higher target, and the number looks amazing because of higher valuation. But
Oh yeah,
they know there's no way in the world you're going to get there. Right?
that's right. This is why a lot of people who are buyers don't like brokers, by the way, because they want to get the seller kind of isolated, where you don't see as many deals, right? Versus like us, we've had these earnouts before, and we tell the seller like, you should definitely not take this deal because they're trying to screw you, right? And don't worry, we have like 10 other people ready to talk to you, so it's not like this is one shot and it's over, right? But yeah, this is one reason why a lot of buyers will poo-poo on brokers, because they want to get the seller isolated. And the ironic thing, M&A works in reverse than your typical like sales. So a seller has way less experience on average than a buyer. A business buyer tends to have a lot more M&A experience than the seller, because they've done it at least once, and most sellers have never even sold a business yet, right? So like the seller is coming in with a skill disadvantage and a knowledge disadvantage right out of the gate, typically. But the buyer, they're just a commodity at the end of the day. They're just money. So the only thing they can offer you basically is money with terms. And that's every buyer. But the seller is the actual unique one here that is not a commodity, because there's not that many of these like really good sellers, right? Especially once you get into the multiple 7 figures and 8 figures, the numbers go way, way, way down. Hence the multiples go way up, because the seller is actually the darling at the ball. It's not the buyer. The buyers want you to think that they are the savior, that they are the ones with all the power, but really it's you as the seller. You're the desirable one, not the other way around. And this is again why buyers don't like brokers, because they want to be the only buyer, because it becomes a lot harder to have this image of this if there's like 10 other people wanting to do due diligence on your business, right?
Yeah. Yes. And on the buyer side, is it like both B2B and B2C?
In terms of like
On the buyers, like, it's mostly organization or also like private people?
it ranges. Our demographics and psychographics of our buyers is extremely diverse, just like our valuation sizes are extremely diverse. So we have private equity, family offices. We have international corporate conglomerates. We also have just affluent entrepreneurs, right? So those are often some of the best buyers, because the deal structure is usually simple. Then we also have people just starting out. So you have people, maybe they're mid-manager, working their 9 to 5. They want to buy a digital business, and they're probably not buying $1 million business, but hey, we sell things less than $500K, right? So they might come in and acquire something. I would say we probably have more newbie buyers than any broker because we're extremely newbie friendly. Like we want to help people get into entrepreneurship, but yeah, so we have a ton of different types of buyers, from strategics to private equities, you name it.
Yeah, so many different, I would say, segments on the buyer side, but also it's a marketplace. So you'll also do marketing on the seller side. I mean, how do you do that? How do you cope with all these diversity and so many efforts, which is like, sounds like a real, intense and overcomplicating kind of marketing compared to just a brand. You just need to bring some D2C customers, right?
You are 100% correct.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's not easy. Because not only do you have all these, it's a double-sided marketplace, right? And double-sided marketplace businesses are a nightmare when it comes to marketing. Nothing works like it's supposed to, right? Like you have like HubSpot set up with MQL, SQL. Like good luck, Dude, like, you have to build two different ones, right? So yeah, like all your marketing, you got to build two different things at the least. But then you have like all these different segments within those two segments. You also have to build two, right? So yeah, it can get complicated very quickly. In terms of what we try to do, or what we do currently, I should say, is we have like buyers, we have them fill out their criteria, what they're looking for. When something goes live on the marketplace that matches, there's automatic emails that get sent out. We have our Monday and featured listings emails as well. So Monday emails like go over like what's new on the marketplace. Featured listings are usually thematic, like Amazon FBA or eCommerce or marketing agencies, right? And then we have our TWIMA, so This Week in M&A. That's our newsletter goes out. That's our like main content workhorse, goes out to 115,000 people a week. And then we have just a bunch of segmentation. So if you verify, like if you show us you have a certain amount of liquidity, you also get added to Greg's Hidden Gems, where I'll do a deep dive on certain 7-figure businesses of like what I think the real opportunity is if someone buys that business. So we have a bunch of different types of segmentation that we do in our CRM.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. So Greg, how people can find you and Empire Flippers?
Yeah, pretty easy. EmpireFlippers.com. If you want to chat with me, it's Greg at EmpireFlippers.com, or add me on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to get a hold of usually. So yeah, happy to talk.
Great. Anything else you want to add?
When are you going to sell your business with me, Eitan? Let's make this podcast.
So let's look about it. Here we can do another episode just on this topic. It's like build in public and exit in public. Huge trend.
But we will start the exit planning for your next episode, man.
Sounds good. Really, it was super, super interesting. Greg, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Always a pleasure, Eitan.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. Explore Vimy, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimy at www.vimy.net. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.